if you really do want to step back so you can step forward in a big way in a couple months, a couple weeks, or maybe even next year, then this is the time to do it. I don't know when the right time a hiatus is going to make sense to you, so consider this coffee talk timeless. You can come back to it whenever you feel like you're ready. I have prompts for planning this and really getting down to the heart of why a hiatus might actually be beneficial to you, and ultimately why you should reclaim your rest. Sometimes I think it's so crucial to disconnect from the world, to recharge, to reground yourself, to re-strengthen and refocus and repurpose exactly what it is you're out to do, that you're seeking out from life. Not that you always need to be seeking anything out from life, but for the most part, as human beings, we tend to feel lost when we're not really going or in the direction towards something. So I recently needed this for myself. I needed to take a step back. I needed to reclaim my rest. I needed to reclaim my health. I needed to reclaim my peace of mind, if you will, and reclaim some energy, knowing that I really, really wanted a specific goal of mine for the fall time. And I wasn't gonna be able to do that if I didn't take some time to seclude myself, to recharge and take care of myself. So if you are in any kind of similar boat, then this is definitely gonna be the chat for you. I'm hoping that at the end of today's chat, you're gonna feel motivated and inspired to go on a hiatus, to reclaim your own rest, and to come back stronger whenever you feel like that time frame works for you. If you would like to, you're welcome to grab a journal and journal out these prompts. You can save these prompts and use them for later, or you can just pause the episode and reflect on them, or write your answers in the comments if you're over here on YouTube, whatever makes sense to you. Also, cheers. I don't know if I mentioned this yet. I am drinking a half-calf almond milk hazelnut latte, and I'm sending you a very virtual digital cheers wherever you are, whatever you're drinking, whatever you're doing. When was the last time you truly took a step back from the world, and how did it make you feel? If you are a member of the Kalyn's Coffee Talks and Flows channel over on YouTube, I'm going to be including the writing time for these prompts, so you're welcome to actually write in real time. And if you're just listening to today's episode, fret not, you can just pause, write down your answer, and then hit play when you're ready to move on to the next segment. Originally this month, I wanted to take a step back from social media. I decided I was going to do a little bit of a digital detox, delete the apps from my phone, and just give my mind a little bit of a reset. As just per what my job entails, I create a lot of content, and it's interesting because I wrote that one of the more recent breaks I took was back at the beginning of the year, and this was more so like a grief break. Like I had to take a break to go through a grieving process more personally, but at the same time, it was a little relieving to not feel like I had to capture or monetize everything I was doing, everything I was thinking, everything I was feeling. When you think about the last time you really took a step back to rest, you really took a step back to rejuvenate, to refresh, to recharge yourself, when was it? How long ago was it? And how did it make you feel? When we get lost in the things that we're trying to do every day, when we are on all the time, it gives us absolutely no room to refill our cups. And then we wonder why burnout is happening so chronically. Even just the ability to access one another. There used to be a time where you didn't have a cell phone in your pocket or in your hand. So when you weren't by your home phone, or if you weren't home, people couldn't reach you. Now people can reach you in multiple avenues, multiple apps, anytime. The fear of life slipping through my fingers and me not having those sentimental moments to look back on, whether it's a video or a photo, I've always loved that. But it's also, again, balancing that with like constantly wanting to capture, but then you're pulling yourself from the present moment. All of these things can be super draining. Also, interaction with other, depending on if you are introverted or extroverted, when you're constantly on, when you're constantly interacting with other people, it again pulls you away from the ability to stop, to sit with yourself, to really garner or gauge where you're at. And so all of these reasons, plus many more that I'm not even thinking of right now, but hopefully we'll get to today, are why rest and rejuvenation are so important. And nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody's going to tell you to take a break, to take a rest, to take a step back. And if anything, there's going to very likely be a feeling of guilt in even doing so. Like, I know this month, when I deleted all my apps, already I feel like I've had people be like, oh, I sent you something on Instagram, or did you see this? And immediately you get this little bit of FOMO of like, oh, why did I choose this month to take a step back? But then I'm like, no, this is actually feeling really, really good. But there is this underlying feeling of like, you're gonna miss out on something if you don't stay on all of the time. And if we actually sit with that for a moment and really pick apart the wisdom in it, there is absolutely no truth in that. If anything, I think we'll miss out on more if we're meeting everything in our day-to-day at half capacity or low capacity because we haven't taken time to rest or recharge. If you go back to that time in your life where you did take a step back, how did you feel when you reemerged? My experience, when I do reemerge after a moment of rest and reclaiming my sense of self, reclaiming just where I'm at, regrounding into my feet, both figuratively and literally, I always feel so much more in tune with life again because I'm at a higher capacity to connect and to engage with my life and with other people. So this leads me into my next question. How do you feel after you spend long periods of time engaging, socializing, being productive, and being on in any sense? I'd love to know your answer to this because, again, I think that these symptoms boil up for us in so many different ways depending on who we are and how we interact with the world. Personally, I know after long periods of time where I'm on and I'm social, I'm super social, and I'm connected both online or to like a lot of different things, it's almost like feeling like you have a lot of tabs open in your mind. Like you've started a conversation or you've committed to something or you have a project that's due or any kind of deadlines on the table, and you have all of these things open in your life and you're interacting with a lot of energy. I get frazzled. And by frazzled, I mean my energy just feels chaotic. Like I feel almost like zapped or spent. And that can manifest itself in a couple different ways for me. I either go into burnout and get super exhausted, but usually and sometimes there's a step before that happens where I go into almost like anxiety, high productivity or like high functioning mode where there's a lot of tabs open and suddenly I'm like, okay, I better get going on all of these things. And it's like, I start tripping over my words. I start fumbling. I get super like clumsy. I get very clumsy. I'll like stub my toe. I'll drop things and break them. And it's because it's my fight or flight response kicking me into high gear because I feel like there's a lot of things on the go and I need to keep up. And so it really does get to a point where I get to that high state of anxiety and then I crash. To me, it feels like I lose touch with my internal compass. When I don't feel connected to my inner compass, that's when I feel the most lost in my life, which yeah, duh, that makes sense. Something I think is crucial is knowing when it is time to step back before you get to that point. When would be the best time to catch yourself before you go this deep into overwhelm or overstimulation? Because that is the point that you need to decide to take a step back. Here's where stepping back becomes tricky. What commitments, what activities, what responsibilities or priorities in your life would be hard for you to step back from? Which ones would you struggle or do you struggle taking a break from? I can really empathize with it being a struggle to decide for your own sanity, for your own sake, to take a step back from the harder things. It can be easy to step back from things that are kind of nonchalant, they're not really necessities in our life, but to actually take a step back from the things that tend to drain us the most, it can be really hard. I know that I struggle a lot with taking a step back from my goals and my dreams. I'm a big believer that I can do way more at the same time than I'm really fully capable of, or I'll stretch myself thin trying to say yes to other people while also knowing there's already a lot on my plate. And the biggest thing that I struggle with is trust. So the idea of delegating certain things to other people, like the biggest thing I have trust issues with is delegating childcare. Like if I were to, and I have tried to find a nanny or find a daycare, it's like I can always find a reason why I don't trust the person or I don't trust the facility or I don't trust the place. Like it's not going to be as good of care. And that can be a problem. If you don't know how to step back for your own sake and accept help, then you're definitely going to head into a burnout. But also, furthermore, if you really do want to step back so you can step forward in a big way in a couple months, a couple weeks, or maybe even next year, then this is the time to do it. Like, if this is calling to you in any sense where you're like, gosh, I know if I just gave myself the time to really pull back and refocus, resharpen my energy and my time into what I really need to be doing, even though it could be really hard to go offline and feel like you're missing out, even though it could be really hard to not go to social events, not spend money, whatever it is, like depending on what your goals are, it could be really hard, but it's that short-term gratification versus long-term gratification. You can't have both. You can't do it all. So going on hiatus and finding your why, knowing why you're doing it and why it's important to you and what you're going to get out of it from going into a moment of seclusion, from doing some groundwork and focusing your energy and your time and your resources in an effective and an intentional way while also resting and taking things off your plate. That is a very powerful move, and it's a very, very hard thing to do in the modern age. If you were to take a step back, what would be your reason why, and what would be your focus? My follow-up question is, how long do you think you need? And then how long do you want? You might want to step back for just a week, but actually need to take a step back or take a hiatus for like a month. And it could also go in reverse. You might need to take a step back or go on hiatus for a week or 2 weeks, but you might actually want to take a step back or go on hiatus for even longer and really give yourself the luxury of time and going slow. So, how much time do you need and want? And then the third follow-up question to this little subsection here is, if you gave yourself that time and you stepped back for that reason and you focused on that thing, what do you feel like you might discover taking that break, from going offline, from disappearing, from logging off, from really focusing on yourself and cutting ties with the world for a little bit? The reason why these questions are so important is because it creates the parameters around what you need to do and what your hiatus is going to look like. And on top of that, if you can just sit and answer this for a moment, because it's probably and very likely a yes or no answer to a question. Whatever it is that you're stepping back from, be it the online world, be it your job, be it socialization or luxuries or indulgences or dating or I don't know, like family events, whatever it is that you're stepping away from, is it still going to be there after that time period is over? For the most part, there aren't very many things I could think of that won't still be there after a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, 3 months. Like, most things are still going to be there on the other side of that break, of that hiatus. The only difference is you're going to be more empowered. You're going to be more grounded. You're going to be more prepared and more excited and more in tune with your life, instead of feeling burnt out, instead of feeling frazzled, instead of feeling disconnected or disoriented or directionless. What are you going to have to say no to in order to do these things? If someone reaches out to you and asks, hey, you want to go do this thing on Saturday? Are you going to have to say no? When someone wants to go for dinner, when your boss or a colleague asks if you can take something on, something extra, is it actually needing to take a stress leave from your job for a moment? Like, what are you going to have to say no to in order to see your plan through? From my experience, the way the universe seems to work, the minute you set an intention to do something, a lot of the times we get tested to see how serious we really are about this thing. Think through now the ways that you could be tested. Make your plans now so that you know exactly what to execute the minute you walk away from this talk. When you think about your solitude, when you think about taking things off your plate, clearing off your calendar, clearing off your to-do list, what activities would bring you a sense of peace and reconnection with yourself instead? The reason why this question is important is because this is the formula for reconnecting back to yourself. If you actually gave yourself the open availability, the open time, the open energy to really get back to nurturing yourself and caring and connecting back to yourself. Like, what do those activities look like for you? For me, it's walks in nature, giving myself this time this month to really focus on my sleep hygiene and getting lots of good rest and nourishing myself with yummy, delicious meals. Yoga, writing, just time, open time at home with my family where I'm not thinking about having to do this or clean that or whatever. Sitting outside at sunset. Like, these are just a couple ideas of things that you feel that might help you get back to a place of reconnecting with yourself inside. And this is really going to be dependent on why you're taking your hiatus as well. Like, perhaps you're going to give yourself this time to work out. Like, maybe you're going on a hiatus because you really just want to get into a strong physical place with yourself. Or maybe you're going to give yourself this time to research, to study, to work on a creative endeavor, to do a hobby. Maybe you're going to travel somewhere by yourself, go on a little solo trip somewhere. Like, this part is the fun part, because once your schedule is clear, you can still trickle in some activities, but these are going to be activities that actually fulfill you rather than drain you. When you think about what a day looks like from this break from the world, describe it or think it through in its fullest, most detailed form. When you step back and you really take some time for yourself, you want to be able to set the rhythm and the pace with intention of your day-to-day. You want to be able to include the restful things that you've set aside this time for, and also include the things that are going to help propel you forward when you come back out, when you reemerge to the world. And hopefully what that looks like to you is exciting enough that you actually will come away from this conversation and take the break that you're setting yourself up for. Because the final question I have for you, what does it look like when you come out on the other side of this? If thinking about what a day would look like, if you were to actually step back and fully focus on yourself and give yourself a break, a rest, and a moment to recharge and step back forward, if that didn't commit you to doing this, then I really hope this question does. Because when you think about what it looks like on the other side of that break, when you think about what you're gonna get, how you're gonna feel, what you'll feel prepared for, or what you'll feel recharged in. Like, I don't know if you're taking a step back because you need to plan or prep or, work on something that is solely for yourself. I don't know if you need to take a step back because you need a break from looking at yourself through the prism of social media. Like, reconnect and realign with who you really are before you show your face out to the world again. How you will feel and what it will look like when you reemerge after taking a break, taking a season, taking a hiatus, making people wonder where the heck you are for a little bit, and then being like, oh, here I am, I'm back and I'm ready. That, I hope, will be enough to motivate anybody listening today that really does need this, that really feels that calling, like, to truly not just take a half-assed step back, like, take a full break. Make it longer than you think you need to, or take it as long as you can to fully give yourself the time, the luxury of recharging your energy, refocusing, recentering, regrounding in who you are and what you want to do and where you want to pinpoint and focus your time, your resources, your entire being, especially as we enter into the fall season. Like, now is the time to truly re-center, to take everything that's happened so far this year and refocus it, fine point it into what you can harvest this fall before taking a real nice, relaxing holiday break in December. Like, now's the time to do it. I do have a coffee talk coming. If it's not next week, it's the week after, on what to get what you really want out of the rest of the year. That is going to be more goal focused. This is the rest you want to take so that you can conquer those goals. And if you are taking a hiatus starting right now, then that coffee talk will hopefully come out during your hiatus so that you can create a plan and prep for that goal for the rest of the year. And if you do want to harvest some serious, deep, good work, some achievements, some goals, anything of that nature that is calling to you for fall, take this break now, because it's the last chance you're going to get before the holiday season. Let yourself rest. Come back firmly planted in your feet, firmly planted and assured in who you are right here, right now, and what you've come to the planet this year to do. Firmly assured that you have what it takes to do what you need to do in your day-to-day life, but it doesn't mean you need to do it all day, all of the time. Firmly confident in the face that you show to the world or that you post online. Like, whatever your goal, your intention, your focus, your purpose is, if you want to step up to that plate, give yourself the grace and the space to take a rest, to take a hiatus, to recenter, to refocus, and then reemerge. There you have it, folks. That is my coffee talk of the day. If you had any thoughts that popped up into your mind, please share. Please create conversation and dialogue below. Hype each other up for the breaks you're taking. I'm still on my break. I'm only within the first week of it, but this is coming out in a couple weeks' time. As you can see, I'm already ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and pat myself on the back for that. Without further ado, I'm cheersing you the last third of my coffee cup. I'm gonna drink the rest of this cold coffee, and I will chat with all of you guys next week over here on my Coffee Talk podcast. Bye, everyone.